Bhante, I want to ask a question. During the guided meditation, you always say when their thoughts arises, you don't push it away. Just be aware of the thoughts. But on page 182 of the Upanishad Sutta, it is mentioned that mindfulness of breathing is developed for cutting off thoughts only. So
Meghiya Sutta, I mean?
Yeah.
Meghiya Sutta.
Meghiya Sutta. Yes, Meghiya Sutta.
Yes. So, what's your question? You're just making a statement, a comment. What's the question?
So your question seems to be contradicting to what you are saying just now, that when the thoughts are there, you just don't push it away, don't do anything, just be aware of it. But in the Meghiya Sutta, it says that you cut it off when you develop mindfulness of breathing.
Yes. Meghiya Sutta, as the name suggests, is a discourse that was given to Meghiya. You hear what I said? Meghiya Sutta, as the name of the sutta suggests, is a discourse that was given specifically to Meghiya. And I'm giving guided meditation specifically to participants of the workshop. That's why Meghiya has an interesting story. He was at one time the attendant to the Buddha. In the early part of the Buddha's career, he did not have a permanent attendant like Asma Ananda. So some monks would follow him for some time, and then after that, another monk would take over. So at that time, Asma Meghiya was the Buddha's attendant, and he was walking with him along a journey. And along the road, he chanced upon a very beautiful grove by the side of a stream or river. And he felt very compelled and inspired to part ways with the Buddha and go there for a retreat. And so he asked permission from the Buddha. He says, Bhante, I just chanced upon that beautiful grove over there, and I would like to ask your permission to release me so that I can go and meditate. And then the Buddha said, wait, Meghiya. Wait until another monk comes. Then for the second time, Meghiya asked permission from the Buddha. And the second time, the Buddha asked him to wait. And third time, he did that. And after the third time, the Buddha also said, well, if somebody says he wants to meditate, what can I say? So go ahead and do what you want. So he went to meditate in that grove. He left the Buddha, gave him his robes and his bowl. You take care of yourself and I take care of myself. And so the Buddha traveled alone with his bowl and his robes, and Meghiya set off to his meditation retreat center. And as he sat on the place, he was assailed by all those defilements of lust and anger and restlessness. And he could not meditate. And he tried for some time, and after that he came running after the Buddha and said, Bhante, I'm sorry, I cannot meditate. No. And so at that point the Buddha gave him this discourse. The Buddha already knew that that was not the right time for him. But people are very headstrong. They want to do what they want. They want to listen to the teacher. So the Buddha also kwa lah. He said, you don't listen to me, okay, you go and do what you want, you go and learn it the hard way. So he went there and he couldn't make it, came back to the Buddha, and the Buddha gave him this discourse, specifically about his problem. The sutta just said this much, but the commentary, of course, added some spices. He said that Meghiya, in a previous life, was a playboy. And he was having fun with his girlfriends in that grove. And so that's why when he sat down there, the very spot where he was courting his girlfriends, the energy from the past invaded his mind, and he was filled with all those memories of the past. So he was assailed by sensual desire, assailed by jealousy and conceit and hate and everything that is related with that. So on account of that, the Buddha gave him specific instructions on how to overcome his problem. All right? But actually, coming back to what we did just now, I want to talk about three very important principles. You should note this down. Maybe I already said this because I've said it so many times in so many places, I've forgotten where I said it. I did say? Yeah, maybe I did say it. I don't know whether you remember. Okay, the 3 principles is that the first principle is that the 5 senses can only take objects in the present moment. Right? And the second is that the mind can take objects of the past, present, future, as well as imagination and fantasies. And the third principle is that for most people, normally the mind can only take one object at one time. Okay? So when the mind is thinking, usually it's about the past or the future, and even about the present, due to sense stimulus. You see something, you hear something, you recognize that, and then you start to think. Kepo, a busybody, and start to think about what you saw, what you heard, and so forth. So one way of disengaging the mind from such compulsive thinking about the past or the future and fantasies is to anchor it to the present. Right? You hear people say always, be in the present, be in the present, be in the here and now. What do they mean? For a long time before I discovered this principle, actually through learning Abhidhamma, I wondered what is meant by being in the here and now. Until when I studied Abhidhamma, it became very clear to me. The 5 senses can only take present objects. So to be in the here and now means to be with the 5 senses. That's as close as you can to the present. Actually, it's not real present, it is the immediate past. Because you can only be aware of something that you have seen after you have seen it, right? What you have heard after you have heard it, right? What you think after you have thought it, right? Yeah, so it's actually the immediate past, but for conventional usage, it's good enough to say it's the present, but actually it's the immediate past. Not the distant past, what you thought yesterday or 2 years ago, but just the immediate past. Okay, so if you keep on directing the mind to what is happening in the senses, the mind is busy with present objects, right? Not? And then you will automatically be disengaged from those things about past and the future and fantasies. All right? So this is the principle of open awareness. Open awareness means that's how you handle thoughts. In order to disengage yourself from those compulsive thinking, try to stay with present, with what is happening in your senses, particularly the body sense. You can also do with the eye sense and the ear sense. Eye and ear, especially when you are in nature, in the botanical gardens or forest reserve, you're going for a walk, that's a very good place for you to stay with your senses. But maybe when you are in public with people around, talking and walking around, it may not be so conducive because the mind is very kepo. See something, want to think about it. Hear something, especially some language you can understand, and start to interpret it, start to have all sorts of ideas. So maybe in such circumstances, better to stay with the body. Right? So the principle is the same. Whether you're doing focused awareness or open awareness, the principle is to keep your mind occupied with something so that it doesn't get caught up in thoughts about the past or the future or fantasies. In focused awareness, you just focus your attention on one single thing, your breath. Everything else you disregard. In open awareness, you pay attention to the 5 senses. Allow the mind to move freely among the 5 senses, and that will keep it busy. Then you will not think about the past or the future or fantasies. Even that can bring about calmness, because the mind is not agitated by thoughts. Now, that sort of calmness is different from the calmness that one attains through focused awareness. In focused awareness, the calmness or the samadhi can be rather brittle because you're used to just focusing on one single object. And when the mind becomes very quiet and calm, very automatically you become attached to it. You want to maintain it, want to stay there for a long time. And then somebody opens the door and bangs it, then it will just make you jump up from your samadhi, and that's when you begin to get angry, and the mind will start to think how inconsiderate that person is, should have closed the door properly, slowly. Does he know that I'm meditating here? All these things will start to go on in your mind because your peace has been disturbed. Now, the sort of calmness or samadhi that one attains through open awareness is more durable. Why? Because the mind is moving all the time from one object to another. And it understands that things change all the time. Right? And because of that, there is this equanimity. You understand that things change all the time, and you're just stepping back to look at things change, and you're not bothered by them. Whether somebody bangs the door loudly or do something else, it's just another object. You go there, the mind goes to another object, and it goes round and round and round. And then, but because it is not caught up in thoughts, it is composed. It is not ruffled. It is not distracted. In fact, when you do open awareness, there are no such thing as distractions. Everything is worthy of attention. Everything comes and goes. Yeah? Even if a thought arises commenting on somebody who banged the door, that is also another thing to be observed and let go of. So, that is what I call dynamic samadhi. And when you have that dynamic samadhi, you can maintain that throughout your daily life, then most of the time your mind will be composed. And the Buddha said, monks develop samadhi. The mind of one who has samadhi will be able to see things according to what has occurred. Okay? So when your mind is composed in your daily life, whatever problems that occur to you, whether it's worldly or connected with your meditation, will become very crystal clear to you. What is this problem all about? What are its causes and conditions? Yeah? And you also understand that everything is due to cause and conditioning. Even that problem is due to causes and conditions. And because you can see clearly without being colored by all your emotions and presumptuous assumptions, then you can act wisely. Right? That's why I'm promoting this sort of open awareness, which I think is very practical for everybody, whether you are a renunciant or whether you are a layperson busily engaged with affairs of the world. Actually, you have a lot of time. It's just that most of the time, our minds are lost in unproductive thinking, chattering, unproductive chattering, commenting on every little thing that we see and hear. Very busybody. Yeah, if somebody were to invent a mind amplifier, I think it would be very embarrassing, isn't it? If I give you a free mind amplifier, will you dare to put it on? Nobody would dare to put it on unless you have really very good mindfulness.